Hello 9th Age community and hello YouTube. This is Charles with Evershade Gaming and I'm bringing you another 9th Age battle report. So this one is going to be a lot different than most of my previous battle reports. As I mentioned a couple battle reports ago, I did not get all the pictures from Cornerhammer. I missed all my pictures day 2 from game 4 and 5. But considering how well I did it at Cornerhammer, I felt it was appropriate to fill in the gaps. So stay tuned. This is game 3, but I will also have some content regarding game 4 and then game 5. So game 3 deployment. I have my steam tank on my left flank with my small group of crossbowmen, and then there's those pesky mushroom impassable terrain that I'm hiding my Arcane engine behind. And I've got my Imperial Guard in the center of the board, kind of all spread out to give orders evenly as possible. I've got, right next to the Imperial Guard, my light infantry with handguns. Next to them, I've got my 20 light infantry with crossbows. I'm still getting used to this, but I'm like, I don't know why my crossbows are behind a forest. It's just bad deployment. Don't ask me. Getting used to kind of like figuring out where to put things in forests. I don't like to put things in forests, obviously, especially light infantry, but then I'm like, why am I shooting through a forest? You know, just even with accurate, now I'm back to 5s. This deployment style was the circle deployment, so I ended up getting the attacker. My opponent chose the defender side. Next to my crossbowmen, I've got one mortar. Behind my Knights of Sun Griffon, I got my cannon. Couldn't really find a good place for the cannon, and then I've got my Reiters and my Inner Circle Knights on my right flank. And there's not really that many good targets. Playing Highborn Elves, and I just don't really have a good target with the cannon. On his left flank, he's got one of his Reaver Chariots, and then his unit of 15 bows. Then he's got an Eagle in the back, kind of play chaffing roll, whatever it needs to do. And then he's got one of his 2 drops of 25 spears with the Rainbow Banner. That's his whole core, is just like 15 archers, 2 things of 25 spearmen. He's got a big thing of Lion Guard with the Navigator's Banner. That goes in distracting first round of combat. He's got a Prince in there with the spear, and he's Master of the Cranning Tower. And then behind them are his sisters with his BSB. That's a Queen's Companion BSB. And then to finish out his deployment, he's got his other Eagle, his other Reaver Chariot, and his 2 Sky Sloops. Basically, it's described this whole list, but I'll just give you specifics on the characters. So yeah, his Prince is a Master of Cranning Tower, 4 spells, Shield, Heavy Armor, Spear, Sliver of the Blazing Dawn, that's the Spear upgrade, Demon's Bane, that just gives him rerolls against things with magical attacks. But that doesn't include magic enchantments, I guess. It's kind of a funky ruling, or not even ruling, kind of funky wording on that item. But I believe the Demon's Bane also gives him +1 to his armor. He's got the Will's Ward, so he's got 2 up armor, 7 foot, which isn't bad. And then he's got the Book of Arcane Power, which is really good when you got like your 4 spells from the Master of the Cranning Tower. Honestly, the Book of Arcane Power might be overpowered on that character build, to be honest. And then the Commander Queen's Companion is pretty simple. She's just a Battle Standard Bearer with a longbow. She's got the bow upgrade that gives her, like, I think 3 shots at like straight 5 AP 3 or something like that, and then a helper too for close combat. So she's kind of a nice addition to the Queen's Companion. Alright, so Highborn Elves got turn 1. I believe I dropped everything to let him go first. I wanted him to come to me. He moves up a little bit. He gets the Oaken Throne off. I have a hard time, I have sometimes hard time telling when to stop the Oaken Throne. Part of me is like, I should stop it every time, but I didn't stop it. He gets a couple other spells off and does a little bit of damage. On my turn, I put Altered Sight up on my light infantry. And then just kind of move forward with the steam tank, and just kind of have some poise for some shooting. Yeah, this more movement up. I moved the Reiters up on the hill. I really didn't know what to do with them over on this side of the board. There really wasn't a good spot for them. This is a short battle report. This was a bad game on my part. I think I do a Molten Copper right here. Kill some Lion Guard. Started Highborn Elves turn 2. The Highborn Elves definitely more active player. I felt like I was sitting back trying to do some shooting, but most of my shooting was ineffective for the most part. So you can see he moves up here. He puts his spearmen just on the top of the hill. I flee with my Reiters, and this was like kind of like pull to pour. I feel like I should have had my Knights of the Sun Griffon on the hill at this point. I don't know why they aren't there. And then in his turn, he's able to just like kill all my inner circle knights. I was trying to like push his sloops back with those guys, but yeah, I don't know. The worst part is we're playing the deployment or the objective where it's like killing the scoring units. So most of this game I just bleed my scoring units left and right. On Yoda's turn 2, pretty much always keeping my accurate orders up. It's not really helping. One of the best parts about bows is you can like hide behind stuff. Like I wanted to get his shoot his Queen's Companion, but like they were just hidden behind there's like one model peeking out now that can shoot, and it's just so frustrating because it's like then if you want to shoot them back, it's just like most of the unit can't. I mean, most of the units like just hard cover. It's just really bad for shooting, but very good for bows. Volley fire is very good for bows. In the magic phase, I got another 8 Flux Guard on turn 2, which is like one of the best cards. But I found my magic was not able to do a ton. I throw a Silver Spear at this sloop, which is nice, just within 36 inches, but I think I just deal like 1 or 2 wounds here. And then Highborn Elves turn 3, I found I was not able to stop any of the spells. Man, the Massacrating Tower can basically throw 2 dice at all the spells they have. Especially with the Book of Arcane Power, and they just have no problems doing that. On my turn, I ended up charging my Knights of the Sun Griffon into the Spearmen. I did some damage, he did some damage. I think he actually rolled a little bit worse than I did in this case, and I want to say the combat was a push. Yes. But I mean, he's got all these combat res. I don't really kill that many with all my attacks. Yeah, it's just not a great combat for me either. But it was either get charged by them when they have the better strength and same amount of armor piercing, or charge them. And then in his turn, he ends up countercharging with his Reaver Chariot and his Eagle, and they end up. I don't think they kill my Knights of Sun Griffon, but they ended up pursuing them down at the very least, and then putting them there. And unfortunately, when my riders fled, they did not rally on that turn when I charged the Knights of Sun Griffon. And that would have been nice, because then I could have had a counter charge into the Eagle and maybe overrun to the Chariot or something like that. Instead, they're actually behind the cannon right now. So my turn 3, at this point, again, I've lost like 2 scoring units, and this is actually a really important picture of what happened in the battle. Between my magic and my shooting, I actually did a decent amount of damage to his 2 scoring units on my left side of the board. My cannon killed his Reaver Chariot, like with a cannonball turn, like my turn 1, which is awesome too. And then I should have been more aggressive with my steam team, but I ended up just starting to I was just kind of shooting with it. I wasn't moving forward. I was worried about getting too close to the line guard. So I do a lot of damage to those 2 units. There's maybe like 10 spearmen left, maybe 12 spearmen left, and like 5 archers. And he just turns them around and moves them away, which is a great move on his part. It's what he should have done. Because they did some pressure on that side. They absorbed some shooting. They stayed alive, and they kept their points, and they kept their scoring capabilities. So he's pretty much like winning on the right side. I've had some small gains on the left side, but now the left side's pulling away. And unfortunately, I just don't have anything over there to go after those units and to maybe like clean up some points. I almost needed the knights on that side of the field or something like that, because on the other side they just got shot down. But it really wouldn't have mattered if they were. I mean, it wouldn't have mattered. It's hard to say because I deployed the knights before he'd put all his stuff down because I dropped first. Maybe it might have been my first mistake playing this game. I get a big Molten Copper off the line guard again, but it's just, at this point, I was trying to do this like every phase, but it just was too little. Either the damage or I wasn't getting the spells off. I just couldn't do it. Keeping my orders up over here, I did not move this unit farther enough, that crossbow unit far enough back to not get charged. It is a long charge from the spearman. And then I shoot a silver spike at this one sky sloop, and I'm able to get rid of it, which was good. It's one of the few things I actually kill in this game. And then, yeah, Harbor Elves turn 4. The spearmen, I want to say, needed probably like a 15, or they needed probably like a 11 or 10 on the dice. I want to say they needed 11 on this. I want to say it was like 16. And he rolled it with the reroll from coming down the hill, so that was really good for him. Not that it really would have mattered. These guys probably would have gotten there eventually. You know, there's nothing really on this side that's stopping them. They either would have marched forward and charged turn 5 or whatever. You know, it would have happened eventually. So obviously it's not good on turn 4, but it would have happened on turn 5 either way. And then the cannon and the Reaver Chariot and the Eagle going to the cannon. Spearmen, you know, no problem killing those light infantry. It's not a good fight at all for me. Good fight for him. And then the cannon and the Eagle also, I have no problem killing. Or the cannon gets killed by the Eagle and the Reaver Chariot. I keep thinking the cannon's fighting the cannon, but it's not. And they go into the Reiters, which again was a bummer because they rallied this turn. But at this point, it's like now they're just getting overrun into and they're going to die anyway. So that was a little bit unfortunate on my part too. It would have been nice to get some more points on that side from something. And then this is what EOS turn 5 looks like. I don't know why it's so dark in this room. I know it was getting late at night because this round ended up stretching late in the evening because they had a long lunch for people to go to Acon. But at this point, I'm just trying to back up with my light infantry with handguns have just gotten shot off the board by the sisters or the Queen's Maidens or whatever. Yeah, the Eagles off the board, but the Reaver Chariot's still on. They kill the Reiters, no problem. The only thing I can like put magic on, other than some damage magic, is this light. This one unit of light infantry has just been not harassed. They're just shooting at whatever they can, but you know they can't really kill that many line guard, because they're still hitting on you know, they're hitting on 4s, but like the line guard still got a good armor save against all their shots, so they just can't kill the line guard. And then this is where I thought I really just lost the entire game, big time. His line guard make a huge charge on turn 5, on his turn 5. Like this was also like an 11 or 12 on the dice. I think it was a boxcar charge, but he had nothing to lose at this point, and he makes it without no reroll or anything. He just, yeah, it was a boxcar charge. He just makes it, and he gets a bunch of spells off the magic phase. Like he gets like 1 or 2 spells off. I mean, it'll stop something this time. But it doesn't really end up mattering all that much. I lose my BSB in the combat. Either I can't remember who character kills it or not. But somehow I lose my BSB. I want to say his prince probably ended up killing my BSB. And he does kill quite a bit of Imperial Guard, but I want to say they just managed to stay above a quarter, and I held on to the whole value of the unit, and then my general didn't die. So that was nice, and they stuck around. So this is what the board ends up looking like at the end of the game. So I've still got my steam tank alive, my unit of 12 crossbows, my Arcane engine with my wizard on top, and then my Imperial Guard and my general. He's got his whole unit of Lion Guard, his prince, his BSB, and the queens. I tried doing some damage to the Queen's Companion last round, but like I couldn't get my magic missile off or whatever, and then, you know, I tried shooting at them to, you know, maybe do some damage, maybe because of panic test, but obviously that's just not going to happen that much. And then he's got his archers left. He's got his both his unit spears are alive. One's to manage, but you know, still holding into its full value. He's got his eagle, his cannon still alive, and one of his other sloops. The only thing I got really was a sloop, a chariot, and I think 1 eagle, and that's it. So this ends up being an 18-2 loss for EOS. It was a 15-5, but he just really handily won the objective. I just couldn't. I mean, I was able to do some damage to his scoring units, but then I just couldn't kill him. And he had less than me, which is his advantage at this point, because one of his, you know, scoring units. Actually, no, he had 5 too. We actually had the same many because he had, yeah, because the Queen's Companions are the Queen's Maidens are also scoring. So I think we had the same amount. 1, 2, 3. No, I had 6, so I had more than him. And unfortunately, you know, like the light infantry just is like not that hard to kill a lot of the times. And yeah, this is amazing. I feel like I had way more shooting than him, but my shooting was so much more ineffective. I had one turn where the mortar got a chance to shoot, and it just missed, and then he shot it off the board. I actually thought I did something really clever my turn one. I vanguarded my Reiters in front of my mortar so that his Queen's Companion couldn't see them. They just targeted some light infantry and killed a bunch. I don't know. It's like his bows are just very good this game. And I really don't know what I would have done that much differently. I would like to think I could have been more aggressive, but man, that land guard block is so tough. And I couldn't get the magic to whittle it down. Yeah. So yeah, that was my only loss at Cornerhammer. 18-2 to Hardborn Elves. I think one of my worst matchups is against Elves. I know I had a good matchup against the Dread Elves round 1. But yeah. So round 4, I played against Knights of Aquitaine. And the list I played against is a Duke with a Pegasus, Grello, Virtue Might, Lance, Divine Judgment, Black Knight, Talward, and Basalt Infusion to Shield. So basically this guy has like +1 strength and +1 AP and +1 attack, I think, when he charges. Maybe not +1 attack. And then his Lance has the Divine Judgment, and it does like D3 +1 wounds. Super, super scary. And he generates more attacks, too. So he's very scary. And then he's got the Black Knight's Talbot, which is really good for 85 points. Basically, if he dies, he comes back with 1 wound, and then he's got a 3-up Aegis save for the rest of his turn. Then he's also got a Duke on a Hippogriff. He's questing Oath. I think he's got a 1-up 2 with the Dragonfire Gem, so that's like an awesome build with the Ghostly Guard. Paladin BSB, very basic. Talisman or Damsel with Druidism, just like very nice for Knights. Bringing Knights back is always good. And then he's got 50 Knights Aspirant with the Banner of Last Charge. That banner is amazing. 6 Knights of the Realm, 12 Knights of the Quest. 5 Human, 2 things 5 Human Outriders, 2 Scorpions, and then the Green Knight. So the Knights Aspirant ran solo. Also same thing with the Knights of the Quest. The 6 Knights Aspirant had the BSB and the Damsel in it. And then obviously the 2 flying characters are solo too. This was a very interesting. I thought this was a great list. I played Knights of Aquitaine on Friday at Cornerhammer in the doubles tournament, and I felt like in the list I played in the doubles was just like cut my list in half, basically the same list. Kept like the orders, the Imperial Guard, and 2 shooting units. And actually, I remember like in that game, a lot of things went wrong for my opponent and I. So I was kind of like really curious to see how I did this game. Or I was really curious the night before. The morning I woke up feeling not so great, and proceeded to have this game being really worried. So this was going to be a paint recreation of the battlefield. So I remember there were 2 hills that really didn't matter much. There was a forest kind of in the middle. It's that yellowish green blob, and then there was a red building. Wasn't probably red, but I'm making it red in this thing. So this is how we deployed. I have my Expos on the left, and a guy, I want to say, dropped everything at a certain point to let him go first again. So I dropped my Crossbows on the left, my Reiters, my Knights, and then I have my Steam Tank, Cannon. The Crossbows are just us. I think they're just inside the forest at this point, actually. And then the Mortar's kind of behind the forest and the Crossbows. Got my Imperial Guard in my center of my line with my General and my BSB. And then I've got my Light Infantry with Handguns next to them. And my Arcane Engine with my Wizard behind both those units. And then my right flank is being secured by my Knights of Sun Griffon. So I pretty much just, I think I just dropped my whole army before most of his deployment. We probably traded off this was actually counter thrust, so we traded off 5 drops. I want to say I put most of the things on the left down first, and then I just threw everything else down. So he's got 2 Scorpions, one's on a hill, one's kind of in the back. His Hippogriff character's on my right, his Pegasus character's on my left, and then he's got his 3 Night Blocks in the middle, and his 2 little Outriders were approximately there. I can't remember their exact positions. I know where they ended up and where they died, though. So we'll say they were there. And then, yeah. And then I actually think I titled the realms as Grails. I thought they were Grails. I can't really remember what they... because they really didn't do too much, actually, as you'll see in a little bit. So his turn 1, he moved up, especially with his 2 flying characters and with his Outriders. And then he just kind of got his knights in position for turn 2 charges against a lot of stuff. And then I actually just going to skip my turn 1 because I did some shooting, but most of it was not too consequential. I did kill some knights here and there, and then I did a bunch of... I hit his Pegasus guy with my cannon. That was huge. And I did 1 wound with the Reiters, but I did the wound with the Reiters first, and then I shot him with the cannon. So the cannon actually killed him, and then he came back with 1 wound because I didn't even know about the Black Knight's Tailword. Didn't know about that item until I played this game. Amazed how good that item is. So good for flying characters. And then, yeah, so I ended up, on my turn, I also charged one of his unit of Yeoman Outriders with my Sun Griffon. Just killed them because they were chaffing. They were going to chaff that side, and it was kind of going to be inevitable. I didn't have anything to really get rid of them. And then, because pretty much all my shooting was going into the middle knights, because if I was going to have any chance to win, it was going to be to grind those guys down. And in his turn 2, he got in with his Knight's Aspirant onto my handguns. So the other crazy thing was, let me go back actually. His general on the Pegasus charged my steam tank with 1 wound too, and he flubs. I think he did 1 wound to my steam tank, which was so crazy with like how kitted out that guy was. And then just with my normal grinding attacks, the steam tank puts 1 more wound on his dude and kills him, which was humongous. That cannot be overstated how big that was on turn 2. So EOS turn 2, he chaffed with his like Knights of the Questing basically. I think they had a longer charge than the Knight's Aspirant, and he just pretty much blocked my Internal Guard from getting the flank on the Knight's Aspirant, which was good. So on my turn 2, I charged them. I failed charge with the Knights with a Scorpion on the hill, and then I'm actually able to use my steam tank to get into the Realm Knights. I've labeled them as Grail again, which was great. Not quite in the flank like it is in the picture. It was basically straight on. I think that forest was more kind of tilted a little bit more, like 45 degrees. It wasn't quite that big thing in the center there, but it's just, you know, a visual representation. So another important thing to note is when my Knights of Sun Griffon fought the Hippogriff character on his turn 2 when he charged, I actually did 3 wounds with them. He did a decent amount of wounds. Like I think he did 3-2, but he just kind of broke me with a charge, and I think 1 more wound than me. I think I needed like a 6 to stick, and I couldn't make it, and I ran off the board with them. So on his turn 3, he charges with his Hippogriff character and his knights into my Imperial Guard, and I'm actually able to hold this charge. This was pretty big, because then on my turn 4, with some magic help, or probably actually my turn 3 with some magic help, I'm able to not only break both units, I kill like a ton of Knight's Aspirant. The Knight's Aspirant flee, and I'm able to pursue down the Duke on the Hippogriff. So I actually have both his flying characters killed. And also, by his turn 4, I want to say, this is the start of his turn 4, what we're looking at, is his Vespian Damsel, his whole Knights of the Realm are dead, and his Vespian Damsel are fleeing, and his questing knights, his Knights of the Quest, are also still fleeing. They got beat with just basic combat res my turn 2, and I charged them, and they fled for like 2 straight turns. He had the worst rally rolls I've ever seen. I think out of like 9 attempts within 3 turns, he failed probably 7 of them on an 8-up. It's really bad luck on his part. His Green Knight pops up on like his turn, probably his like turn 4 or something like that. Charges my Crossbows that are reformed into a block 5x4, and he whiffs so hard. This was again like something I just couldn't believe that happened. I was thinking like, okay, the Green Knight's gonna kill these Crossbows, probably gonna get 1 or 2 of my War Machines. That's okay, I can live with that. No, he goes into my Crossbows and he whiffs with all his attacks. Even his horse does a wound. and I popped the dude on combat res again. Like, that was insane too. But by this point, his questing knights rallied, and then basically by the end of the turn, at the end of the game, the objective was to secure target. So I'm able to move my crossbows to the one on the left side of the field, and I'm able to move my Imperial Guard to the one on the right. His Knights of the Quest end up going after the one on the left. They try scaring off my crossbows, but I was actually able to kind of like move them in a way on like one of the last turns where like he couldn't see me, and then I was able to stay there. And then I just ended up just kind of like shooting at his BSB and his like damsel. They didn't rally till like his turn 6 basically. I just kept shooting at them, and I never ended up. I think I did 1 wound to the damsel at one point, but she had like life, or she had druidism, so she put that wound back on her. But I couldn't ever kill any of the characters. I got close like a bunch of times where it was down to this like, all right, this cannon's hit and it's wounded. It's like down to your ward save, and he was able to make the ward save. So it doesn't end up being like a total massacre, but I ended up winning very solidly. So the final result is a 17-3 victory for the Empire of Sonstal. This was after the objective win too. This was just like, I think I had a very solid deployment, and I mean he had a solid deployment too. There were just a couple of key parts of the game where just something kind of like, I don't even know if unexpected happened, but something mostly favorable things obviously for me happened. Like me killing his general could have killed the steam tank in 1 round. I just passed a bunch of armor saves. I don't think he rolled very well, and then I passed like a bunch of saves, and he just didn't kill me. And, you know, that's like a model like that guy is kind of supposed to kill. And then also getting like 1 wound through the grinds is also really. I mean, I think he had a 4-5 against the grinds, and he just couldn't make he couldn't make 1 more save. So that was very lucky. Him, you know, failing a ton of discipline tests was insane. Again, I want to say out of 9 like rally tests, he failed 7 because his Knight's Aspirate ended up just fleeing off the board. So yeah, it was a big win for me. A little bit surprising. I thought it was going to be a lot closer of a game at first. There's just some of those breakthrough moments that happened. And then game 5. So this point I'm actually sitting on a pretty good score at this point. It was nothing huge. I want to say I had, because I had like 40 some points or something like that. Yeah, I had 40 some points. 20 plus 14 plus 2. I didn't even have 40 points going into round or day 2. But then I got like a nice chunk of points. I was in like the 50s or something like that for battle points now with that 17, which is good place to be. And then I ended up playing Mr. Jake Murphy, the man, the myth, the legend, the motherfucker, and, sorry, pardon the language, that is his name. And he's running his Dread Elf list. So I ended up playing this really good Dread Elf list. And I'll describe it now. I know it's been on the screen for a little bit. But he's got an Oracle with 5 spells. He's got the Magical Heirloom, Destiny's Call, a horse, the Amulet of Spite, which is really cool now. I did not realize how they changed that. Very distinctive item, I would say. Wizard Master rocking Alchemy. And then he's got a Cult Priest on the Divine Altar. It's a BSB called the Knob. Morak's Reaping, which is cool, and the Talisman of the Void. 28 Judge Legionnaires, good size, the Flaming Standard. 3 things of 5 Dark Raiders. 1 unit of 5 Raven Cloaks, 6 Dread Knights with the Banner of Blood. That's actually a pretty kind of like intense unit for just being only 6 Knights. 2 things of 5 Harpies, 25 Dread Judges. That is a nasty unit. And then 3 Dread Reapers. This battle literally came down to 1 moment within the first couple turns. So I don't really have any paint pictures for this. I'm just going to describe it. You can just take my word for it. You can ask Jake at the next tournament you go to if you really want to like get the scoop on it. But so we kind of, I would say, it was a sort of Cornerhammer type of deployment. He was definitely kind of like dominating his top left corner. I'm pretty sure we played the. No, we didn't. Yeah, I think it was just. Might have been just Battle Line. I wanted to say it was the one where you couldn't deploy in one corner. Actually, yeah, I want to see with the deployment where you won, like, you know, 1/4 of your table board you can't deployment. That sounds about right, actually. That would make sense. Which actually ends up kind of leading to Cornerhammer. So he's got a lot of stuff in one corner. I've got all my shooting's kind of like on the back of the board. And what really ends up defining this game is at one point there's like a hill on my left side, his right side. There's a hill. I've got there's like much of my shooting's behind it, basically, ready to shoot stuff that comes like past that hill. He moves 2 of his Dark Raiders up to shoot my unit of Reiters, and he has his wizard has joined the 1 unit of Dark Raiders, and they're on top of the hill at this point too. He shoots with 2 units of Dark Raiders at my Reiters, and he doesn't kill any of them. This is his turn 1. My turn 1, then, I'm able to charge his unit of Reiters with this wizard and get like my pistol shots going into combat. I think I was close enough that he couldn't even stand and shoot. So I go into combat with them. I get like 4 hits. I get really excited, but then I only do like 1 or 2 wounds. So he ends up sticking around in combat, and then the next turn he just wipes me, so he can't pursue or go anywhere. So then on my next turn, on my turn 2, I'm able to shoot with my crossbows, my unit of 20 crossbows, and I kill his general, who's the wizard, and I kill that the rest of those Dark Raiders. And then kind of just from that moment on, after I dominated that side of the board that he had more units on, it just kind of really became a slow grind for me to get a very big victory. Like a lot of other kind of crazy things happened in the game. Like, it was really weird. I had my Nexus Sun Griffon on like my right flank, and they went forward 1 turn, and they got shot and lost 1 guy, and they fled, and then they came forward, and they ended up killing his Raven Cloaks and one of his Bolt Throwers in a rune, and then they ended up getting killed to death by some other Dread Reapers or something like that. And the objective was the Gold Diggers one, which I think they changed that. It's where you pick up the objective markers, and I won the objective by shooting with my mortar his executioners turn 6 for them to kill enough with my mortar, and then for them to flee and drop one of the markers, and then I only had 1 of the markers with my Imperial Guard. It was really crazy. I had a lot of really good rolls on my side, and I think Jake had a lot of really bad rolls on his side. And then I just ended up getting a 19-1. Yeah, and that was a really surprise. It was kind of a surprising turn. Again, I thought that was going to be one of those games where it was like, it's going to be long. We're not going to really lose a lot of units either side. It's going to be kind of a lot closer. But no, I ended up squeaking out a really big victory because I didn't lose. I think I might have only lost the Reiters. That might have been the only unit that died, which is kind of crazy. Oh, I think I lost my Reiters, and I think I sacrificed my Knights at one point, which was just crazy. But big win for me, and big finish for me at Cornerhammer too. 5th place is the highest I've ever finished, and I feel like that's a good tournament to finish 5th place in out of like 60 players. Yeah, that was a good finish. So thanks to all the people I played, and definitely thank you to my day 2 opponents. I was not feeling very well in the morning that day. Probably drank too much. Drank too much the night before, but rallied kind of really hard in a big way to have a strong finish for the tournament. Yeah, so thank you everyone for watching. This has been Heirloom Gaming with my Cornerhammer story, and thank you for bearing with me with no pictures for games 4 and 5, and I hope that it was cohesive enough to create a story for you all to see how I got 5th place. Thanks for watching. See you soon.